So I don't normally do this. Being led to share my story about how I came to Jesus Christ. Um, I guess I'll start at the beginning. I was one of those kids that at a young age I figured out, like, what are you gonna do to me with punishment and such? I thought no consequences. So what? You spank me 5 minutes, pain goes away. You're gonna grab me in my room. I'm gonna take off. I mean, the worst thing I could imagine is being dead. I knew they couldn't kill me, so I was very unruly. um, but I always felt set apart at the same time. I never felt connected to people. I always had all kinds of thoughts running through my head, crazy thoughts sometimes. Just didn't feel normal in the least bit. And I tried to fit in, you know, growing up in high school and junior high and even elementary school. I still, even in that time, I felt different. And, so I wanted to fit in, wanted to be with the cool kids. So I ended up, becoming the daredevil or the guy that would fight or the guy that would, do crazy stunts and make people laugh because that's wanted to be a people pleaser, I guess. And I got by like that for a minute. And then remember being at a party and, still, I faked it till I made it kind of thing. And I was at this party and, like feeling insecure. Wondering if anybody liked me and wondering what they saw, if they saw the same thing I saw when I looked into the mirror of who I was and did they really know me. And I just wanted people to like me for the longest of time, I remember. And this person came in to this party, and everybody started flocking around him. Everybody wanted him and was pulling him into this room and hey, slapping his hands, giving him five and stuff like that. And I just remember thinking in my head, like, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I want right there. I want that notoriety. I want that fame. I want those people to like me like that because I never felt that way. So you want what you can't have, I guess. And I found out he was a drug dealer. So my my road, my path ended up leading me that. I ended up becoming that because I thought in my head, yeah, that's what I want. And then so I went down that road. I went to prisons, jails, institutions, all these things, but still living that lifestyle, living the street life. But I built a code at the same time, which helped me now where I became a Christian. I'm able to live by God's code because the street code was my code for the longest of time. So it was in a way it built me at the same time. So everything I went through, I now see that it was actually, now that I look back on it, it was all for a purpose, even though it would be deemed as bad in the world. But then you think about like Paul, who was killing Christians, murdering them, but God chose him. Half the apostles, they had their problems, they did their sins. Their sins been in the world since Adam and Eve ate the apple. It's the way it is. That's why we have grace. That's why you know Jesus Christ died on the cross. If he didn't do that, then we wouldn't be able to be forgiven of sin. God knew we were going to sin. God had he spoke it into existence. Everything, this life, everything works in perfect unison with God's will. So fast forward a little bit. I stayed in. I was a drug dealer and a drug user for a very, 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 very long time. I went through many turmoils, many strifes, many tribulations, many just storms and conquering them. But I never relied on God. I knew there was a God. I knew Jesus Christ. I knew he died on the cross for our sins, but I never got the full impact of it, of what it really meant that we could actually, you know, give up control and rely on him. And for the longest time, I was in sin. I was in darkness. I was living for me. I didn't care about anything else. I strived for what I wanted: money, power, drugs, women, sex, whatever. You know, it was what I wanted, nothing to do with what God wanted. But at the same time, I was learning lessons. I was getting knowledge and wisdom through my mistakes. The mistakes sucked. The prison time sucked. Going to foster home sucked. Group home sucked. But every day was a different day. It was always something to be learned. There was always something to glean from it. So I got really bad into heroin, and I got really addicted, and I went through many sicknesses, and saying I'm gonna stop and vowing this and promising that, and I just kept on going and going and going and going for the longest of time. And I did many drugs just to numb the pain, because at the same time that I was dealing and in the world and people were accepting me, they never really wanted me. They wanted what I could give them, or what they could use me for, or how I made them feel. It was never about wanting the actual me. And that's what I learned. But I knew it in my heart, but I didn't want to face it. So the drugs numbed it. It would numb that feeling, that, like, God help me with the words here. It would numb that truth. Because I knew, even though I felt the emotions of the people wanting me, I knew in my heart they didn't want nothing to do with me, Corey. You know, it was what I could do for them or give them, or how I made them feel. So, I went on benders, and I experimented with a lot of drugs, heroin becoming my absolute favorite for some reason, because it numbs so much stuff. But I also, went, you name it. The only thing I never really tried was peyote. Um, you know, drugs are not. And it says in the Bible about being sober in mind, and I realize this now that I'm off drugs, that it really does. It breaks the connection between you and God when your mind isn't sober. And we get that connection through Jesus Christ for what he did for us. He's the gap that bridges us back together, like they were in the garden, where we can hear his voice, where we can discern things, where we start seeing him in everything and knowing his truth and his passion and his love and his mercy and his grace. So, long story short, how I was baptized before in prison, but I never really, turned to God. I read the Bible a couple times, a couple passages here and there. I was never a churchgoer. I still ain't. I really don't. I have a personal relationship where I read the Bible. I actually talk to God, and he gives me utterances. He gives me words. They're few. They're not. Sometimes it's few. Sometimes it's like talking to a friend. I don't know if it's in my head or if it's in my conscience or what it is, but I know it's of God, because every time that I get these sayings or writings or whatever you want, I don't know how to explain it, but it's confirmed to me when I read a passage in the Bible, like everything that was just said in my head, or that I heard, or that I thought about, is all of a sudden right there. And so, anyways, so I was on one of my benders. Um, I was I had a very high habit of drugs. I had to do a lot, so I was like doing a lot and on a bender, and I ended up doing some crystal meth, and I did shoot drugs. I was a intravenous user, and I was on a bender, and all of a sudden, it's like the whole atmosphere changed. Like I was very paranoid, thinking weird thoughts, and just not just not having a good time. So I ended up wanting to leave after like 3 days of being in a town, and I did. I caught a cab, and I went to my house that I wasn't. I would like 3 4 days I haven't been there, and I lived with a roommate. And when I got there, I thought the weirdest thoughts. I mean, weird thoughts. Like I thought my whole family was dead. And I mean, with drugs, I've died before. I've been put in prison. All these consequences happen, and nothing stopped me from doing them. But when I thought my family was all dead and that my roommate did it, I mean, the it could have gone so much worse. But by the grace of God, I don't know if I know he was there now. Now that I look at it, but I had a knife out. I was, thinking that my roommate killed my whole damn family. So I'm about to kill him. Uh, and I'm thinking weird thoughts, and I'm seeing like all my family stuff in this house that I haven't been in 3 days. We're renting it together, and, and it's like just my mind played mad tricks on me, I guess. So I'm twiddling this knife and I'm thinking these thoughts, and it's almost like the whole atmosphere was just so different. Something I never want to experience again. I'll tell you that. That was like probably my rock bottom, I guess you'd say. Um, so luckily, long story short, my roommate runs out of the house. I run after him. Well, when I run after him, he runs down the road, and his car passes just as he's running down the road. And for some reason, my mind flipped again, and it was about this time that there was a bombing, people bombing places and stuff like that. So, in my mind flipped, and I was like, oh, he's trying to set me up. So instead of running after him and hurting him, I luckily ran into the woods. Um, in the woods, I uh, I was still, like I said, I didn't rely much on God at that point. But start thinking in my head like, God save me. Don't let. I didn't want to die. I still didn't want to die. And I was thinking I was gonna die because they killed my whole family. He killed my whole family. Um, so I'm in the woods, and I get more weird thoughts. I end up jumping into though it's like December time, and I end up jumping into an ice, like a it's was like a pond or a lake or something like that, and I jumped in. I don't know. I ended up getting naked, thinking that I was bugged. There was just weird things going on. I can't even explain it really. I'm not trying to, because it's not glorifying God in any which way. It's just my story. Um, but ended up being taken away. The cops got me. I was naked. I come out of the wilderness, and it's weird because you read in the Bible a lot about when people change, they go through the wilderness, and I kind of went through the wilderness naked, scared, and afraid. And I did call out to God. Um, like I said, I've always known He's there and known that Jesus Christ died on our sins. But yeah, they took me in an ambulance, took me to the hospital, and I was psychosis bad. This was a time where they had the mask on, so all I could see was their eyes, and I just felt like everyone was against me, and it was all a setup, and like they're just trying to, whatever, whatever. So when I get to the hospital, I'm still thinking these weird thoughts and thinking that, even the hospital people, they're trying to get me, they're trying to set me up. These are not good people, just that weird thoughts, and so the nurse comes in and she ends up very up on the crystal meth, and they end up putting shots into my legs and make me pass out. I wake up in the morning, it just went black too. I mean, like when after that shot, like a calmness came over me, which was the drugs, and I just went black. And then I woke up in the morning, and my first thought, it was weird because my first thought was, oh, God, thank God I'm alive. And then I just started puking. And I mean, I hurled across the bed and tried to make it in a bucket, and because the heroin was starting to come out of me. And, you know, something said in my head, do you want help? And then the nurse come in, and for the first time, I asked for help. I said, I need help. I can't, I'm sick. And they said, well, we have a program, and would you like to start it? And my head, I can't even explain it, but it was screaming the word yes. So I said it. I said yes. Now the weird part is, this hospital that I went into was called St. Mary's. I mean, that's ironic, St. Mary. So yeah. um, so I went upstairs, and the first 4 days I was there, I couldn't even tell you what happened. I slept and puked, and just for 4 days I was not nothing. I was in the bed, bedridden, just done. Just my body was weak. I was weak. So after 4 days, I started coming to and realizing, okay, I'm here. And one of my first thoughts is, I need a Bible, which was weird. And then, I got a Bible and a AA book. I'm not an alcoholic. I've never been really into alcohol. It was always drugs with me. Um, Sorry if this is long. Ah, fast forward. So I get that, and I start reading it in bed because I'm sore and I don't want to get up out of bed. But I start walking around the hospital with a blanket over me because I'm cold, but I'm hot, and I'm just going through detox. And